You should really stop using the same generic webinar registration template as everyone else. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a high converting page on WordPress that actually gets people excited to sign up for your webinar. Look, here's the problem. Most webinar registration pages are just cookie cutter templates. They all kind of look the same, they all say the same thing, and they don't get visitors a real reason to sign up. So if your page doesn't, stand out or show why your webinar matters, people are just going to click away. Now, in this video, again, I will show you how to build a high converting webinar registration page on WordPress that actually gets people excited to register. We're going to take it step by step. You're going to see me building it completely from scratch. And I'm actually going to give you some nice insights because I am actually using this webinar registration page right now. So stick around because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to design a webinar registration page in WordPress that not only looks professional, but also drives more signups without needing, custom code or, needing to hire a designer. You're going to be able to do this yourself at home right now. All right, let's dive in. Let's actually get to work. Here's what we're going to be doing. I've cloned the registration page for one of my webinars that I'm actually using right now. So let's actually fire up the page so you can see how I've built it. So I'm going to show you the end result first, and then we're going to tear the entire page apart and rebuild it completely from scratch. And I'm, for the sake of giving you just a little bit of context, I'm getting about a 24% conversion rate from this page, which is actually not bad. For a webinar registration page, it could be maybe potentially a little bit better. But it's, for a conversion rate of 24% is actually not that bad at all. And it's a very simple, very easy to build, landing page, registration page. I think the copy is not bad either. And overall, it's one that you can actually replicate in just a few minutes. And again, we're going to tear this whole thing apart and build it from scratch. So a couple of interesting things worth noting. There are background sections that I'm using here, for example, the one that you're looking at right now. And here in between the features and benefits section and the actual registration form, I'm using another one and another one towards the bottom. This is something that I've actually started doing lately to make sure that the spacing in between sections of my pages is consistent across my entire website. And I'm actually even taking this a step further by creating symbols out of my background sections. And, that way, every single time I drop in that symbol on one of my pages, and that particular symbol is a background section that serves as separation in between sections, if I ever wanted to increase the amount of white space that I have in between sections, I could just increase the minimum height here, and it would get applied to all of the instances in which that symbol is being displayed on my site. Anyways, just wanted to give you some context as to what we're going to be building. And I think we can tear this apart and just start from scratch. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to change the template and start completely from a blank page. Now, I do have this page opened up on a separate tab. You're going to see me going back and forth between the actual page that I'm using and the one that we're currently building, just because I want to be able to quickly grab copy and, small little things like that. That way, hopefully I can speed things up. But anyways, let's actually start building. So at the very top, we're going to use a background section. We're going to pop in a background section here. It's way too tall for what we're trying to do, which is, for landing pages and sign up pages, we don't want to make use of a header. We don't want to make use of any kind of menu, anything that distracts people from taking action, which in this case, it's, having them sign up to our webinar. It distracts, right? We don't want that in our page. So maybe about 80 pixels is fine. And we've got our logo here centered, which is pretty cool. Next up, we're going to drop in a different background section. And in this case, we're actually going to be doing, so this is interesting, right? Because we have a background section and then we've got a content box inside it with a couple of columns, right? We've got a left-hand column and a right-hand column. And so we want the content box to stretch out to about 1400 pixels wide Tony, how do you know that this is 1400 pixels wide? Well, for one, I've already built it, so I'm kind of cheating. But yeah, I'm playing it by eye as well. I'm kind of just used to looking at things and just kind of guessing. So it's 1440, about 1400. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to drop in a content box. Why am I dropping in a content box? Because if I were to just drop in content inside my background section, that content would stretch out to cover the entire width of the screen, which in this case, we don't want that. We want to make sure that the content box and the content stretches to about 1440 pixels wide. And that is actually not what's happening right now because my background section is applying some width properties to all of its child elements. So it's saying the content inside this background section should inherit the width from the landing page. The width of the landing page is right now 1080. I'm going to change that to 1440. And voila, now it is stretching out much wider, which is great. So we're going to change the background color of this content box. I do want to grab that from here. I can't remember what hex code. F2, F6, F6. Perfect. So we're going to change the background color and we're going to use F2, F6, F6. Great. And I think I want maybe 20 pixels of rounded borders. It may be a little bit more, but for now, let's just power through with that. And to drop in our pair of columns, let's just make them precisely half and half. And we can probably start dropping in some text. So we need 3 different text elements, free live webinar, and our H1. So let's start with our H1 just so that we can get some bigger content in there. Here, we're going to do H1, and we're going to drop in another text element, grab the copy here really quick. And, I made a mistake. And the mistake was not dropping any content box inside this column right here. Why are you dropping in a content box, Tony? Well, because I want to be able to control how wide the content inside this column is going to stretch. And if I don't put those things inside a content box, I'm going to have to manually tell Thrive Architect, all right, this text element should only be, 500 pixels wide. This text element should only be 500 pixels wide. If I drop things inside a content box, I can just do that all in one go and be good to go. Great. Now we're going to drop in a button, and this button is going to not have any sort of letter spacing, and it is going to have an icon towards the right. And we're going to tell Thrive Architect that the icon should be of type, let's do that arrow. That's good enough. So let's change this to sign up for the free workshop. Left align that. And I think I want a little bit of more breathing room in between elements here. So here we've got 20 pixels, and another 20 pixels from this button probably. Not bad. Actually, let's just continue working here. We're missing one more text element, and it should be free live webinar. And there's a reason why I'm including this at the very top. If I were to not include this string of text that says, hey, this is a free live webinar, it's kind of hard for someone to, right off the bat, as soon as they land on this landing page, to tell that this is even a webinar, right? I mean, yeah, this is something that has to do with cutting your WordPress costs by 85% without losing any features, but it's not obvious that this is actually a webinar. So that's why I'm actually throwing in a little subtle subheading in here that says free live webinar. And we're probably going to make this bold. And I do think I want a little bit of letter spacing in here. Oops, maybe like 2 pixels, maybe 5 pixels, but let's make this a little lighter. Maybe, yeah, that kind of gray is fine. And I think I do want to get rid of the line spacing here and get rid of the line spacing here. And that's looking pretty good. Okay, I think that for now, I'm probably not going to do anything else with the left-hand column here for now. We can come back to it later. But now let's actually take care of the right-hand column. So the right-hand column is essentially just an image of me. And, this is literally a picture of me, and you can design a little something using Photoshop or Figma outside. It kind of just tells people, hey, Tony Lewis is presenting this webinar. Oh, and we'll take care of these little thingies in a second with absolute positioning as well. But anyways, let's take care of the image in the right-hand column. And here we're going to do a regular image. All right. And the image is this one. Great. We're going to center it, get rid of all of these top and bottom margins. Important. This is important. If you want this section to look nice and slick, you need to have the persona here, touching the very bottom of the container where it's sitting. And right now, columns in Thrive Architect by default are going to include a little bit of padding. And we do this so that it makes it easier for you guys to be able to work with columns as soon as you drop them into your canvas. But in this particular case, we're going to get rid of these paddings. And we do the same thing for the content box if there is a content box, holding those columns, which in this case, there is one. You can see how there's also some padding here at the top and bottom. So let's get rid of that. And now you can see how the image is actually touching the edge of the content box in which it sits. Pretty cool. So I think I want to position all of this more or less towards the middle of the column. And that's actually pretty easy because we can just tell Thrive Architect, hey, see this column? Can you please align everything vertically speaking to the middle? And boom, it's kind of magic. All right, we're getting there. It's looking pretty good. I think that there is probably, yeah, I think I want to get these things in there. But we're getting pretty close. And I actually think that I may not want to contain this content box so much. Set that back on to auto again. It's kind of better because that way there isn't that much space in between columns as there is, or as there was. All right, let's go ahead and pop in those decorations. So those were just images that, again, you can just mock up in Photoshop or you can mock up in Figma. All right, we're going to put them. Where do we want to put them? So there's a couple of different ways in which we can do this. You could potentially just align it to the right, but the problem with just dropping it in, at the top of the content box and positioning towards the right is that it feels a little bit of, let's actually save our work. It's a good thing that Thrive Architect can remind us. Sometimes you just, you want to protect yourself against the internet powering off. But as I was saying, one of the problems with just aligning this towards the right is that it feels like it's a little bit too far away from the rest of the content, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this inside the content box above our subheading. And that still feels like it's a little bit too further apart, isn't it? So what we're going to do instead is we're going to do position absolute. And we're going to tell Thrive Architect, hey, I want you to position this towards the right of the content box. And here we can control, okay, how far apart do we want this? We can do a little bit of negative spacing towards the top. And I think that's actually pretty cool. Because right now it feels like this image isn't just floating in the middle of nowhere. Like it actually has a place where it belongs, right? It has a home. And it looks a little better. And we're going to do the same exact thing over here. And here we're going to do, we could probably just clone this one and bring it over here above the image. And here we're just going to do absolute position, but we're going to do that for the bottom left corner. And by the way, I have a video talking about absolute and relative positioning on our YouTube channel. If you want to learn more about that, by all means, check it out. because it's actually a pretty nice video explaining how these things work. All right, replace the image for the proper decoration. And here, we probably just want to bring this a little closer into the rest of the content. That's probably good. Awesome. So, how does that look? It's looking better, isn't it? I think I'm kind of liking this. All right, let's hit save. And for the sake of making our lives a little easier, let's just go ahead and check out how this looks like on mobile. So on mobile, we've got our logo. I think I want to make it a little bit smaller, actually. That's good. Free live webinar, how to cut WordPress costs, blah, blah. This is good. This is good. We probably want to change the positioning here of our decoration on mobile and keep it, yes, to the bottom left corner. Maybe bringing it a little closer. And we're going to do the same thing here. Top right corner. And maybe just position it here towards the right. That's perfect. Nice. Awesome. Let's continue working on this. So what are we going to do? We're going to drop in a background section. Again, this one is going to serve as separation. We're going to use this as empty space. Now, is this really necessary, Tony? Well, it's not technically speaking required. If you use this methodology, and you use it as a symbol where you simply have a background section saved as a symbol and you save it as standard spacing in between sections. And, it's just a good way. If you're not great at design, it makes your life a little easier because you can just drop in that symbol onto your page and you can even optimize it for mobile devices and calculate, okay, how much breathing room I'm going to have in between sections for mobile, how much breathing room I'm going to have in between sections for tablet, just by controlling the minimum height, and the same thing for desktop. And it makes your life a little bit easier. But you don't need to necessarily follow this methodology because you could just use paddings, okay? You could just come into the next section and do, hey, I'm going to do 92 pixels up, top and bottom padding, and that is how I'm going to create my spacing. And I've actually used that. I've used that methodology for years and years, and it works fine. It's actually standard practice, in creating space in between elements. But anyways, just a couple of different ways in which you can create space in between sections. All right. So for the next section, we're going to be doing a content box, and this is stretching to cover 1440 pixels across our screen, which is great. I actually take care of the vertical positioning. Okay, so now my content box is vertically aligned inside its parent container, which is the background section. And here we're going to drop in 3 columns, if I'm not mistaken, right? They're going to be exactly the same size. And we need a content box with an image, a heading, and some text for each different column, which is great. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to do a content box. And in order to save a little bit of time, we shall just go ahead and do the work once and then just clone everything into the other columns. So we need an image, some text. I think this is the first image. And we probably want to make that 48 pixels. I'm going to grab the text from this page. I'm going to duplicate the text element. I'm going to grab the heading. I'm going to make this an H6. And now we grab the content box. And can you tell how there's a little bit of shadow behind the content box? Let's just go ahead and take care of that. We probably also have a little bit of rounded corners here. So we're going to give it some border and a little bit of shadow. And you know what? I was looking at this. I don't know if I want shadow. I mean, if you're going for here, you want to make sure that you follow your own brand guidelines. So Thrive Themes here, we use shadows across our site in multiple ways. So I probably do want to stick to shadows if I'm actually designing for this for Thrive Themes. But borders, a subtle border may actually not be too bad of a deal. So you can make it black, but make it like 20% transparent. And that's not bad either. But let's go ahead and do it the way it's supposed to be here on our side. So let's go into shadow, add in a drop shadow, and we probably want to make it a little bit more transparent. We don't want it to be too noticeable, just a little bit. Increase maybe the blurriness. I think that's already more or less kind of there. So I'm going to duplicate this, bring it over into the middle column, duplicate it, bring it over into the right-hand column, and we've got our 3 column layout. Now, there is a problem, which is that there is no breathing room in between columns. So let's go ahead and modify that. We're going to select all 3 columns, open up the settings toolbar, and increase the gutter width, which is essentially the amount of space that we're going to have in between columns. And let's actually do 60 is a little bit too much. Maybe like 24. Yeah, 24 is nice. Cool. Not bad. So let's hit save. We're going to duplicate the background section, our spacer, and bring it underneath the other background section. And since I've already taken care of the mobile spacing for this background section, and I've cloned that background section, yeah, I'm getting the same space across all devices. See how I'm making use of the same spacing in between sections? It's just a way of making sure that you're consistent. I mean, consistency is one of the most important aspects of design, and it will ensure that that your design comes across as being super clean. So we're just missing the registration form. And the registration form is actually kind of similar to the content box that we have here at the top, except we only have one heading and a custom HTML. I'm actually going to get the code for this. All right. And that's it. So I think that I'm going to simply duplicate this content box. That way I'm not going to have to work on the borders and the background color again. I don't need the columns. So probably going to get the content box, put the content box above the columns, get these columns, get rid of them. I only need a heading here. Let me actually drop in the HTML. And you can just put it anywhere, to be honest. Because we're going to get rid of all of this content. So we don't need this text element. We don't need this button. We don't need this other text element or these images. Right. And here we can probably make this an H2. Center the text. And this is very, very, very wide. Now I'm going to duplicate this background section and bring it underneath the background section that we're currently working on. And I think I can just grab the content box and tell Thrive, hey, make this about maybe that wide, 800 pixels wide. Let's center that. And I think I'm liking it. Perhaps a little bit of padding here, just because I feel like I could make use of a little bit of more breathing room. Let's hit save. And let's see what that looks like. All right, here is our landing page. Not bad. Oh, we forgot to center the HTML element. Let's go ahead and center the HTML element. And there's one thing that we could do, which is let's actually make this button a jump link. So here, let's jump into the behavior for the button. And instead of using a regular link, a static link, we're going to use a jump link with smooth animation. And we're going to have it drop all the way down to this text element. Let's hit save. And let's preview what that looks like once again. All right, perfect. Let's click on this button. Takes us to the bottom, and this is still not centered. I think I need to adjust the HTML code, but other than that, not bad. I think maybe perhaps, do you know what I'm going to for sure do to this registration page, I could probably use a heading here. And then I definitely want to use some testimonials underneath from people that either have already attended a similar webinar or people that are already Thrive Suite customers, things like that. I think that could definitely improve the overall design. It's kind of a really short page too, but I'm not selling anything. I'm just asking people to sign up for the webinar. So I don't want to overwhelm people either. But so far, let me know down in the comment section what you think. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. I share new WordPress and marketing tips every week. And remember that a high converting webinar registration page isn't just about a pretty design. It's about clarity in the copy. It's about creating urgency, a sense of FOMO, a sense of fear of missing out, and giving people a clear reason to show up. So keep testing your headlines, keep refining your call to actions, and remember to remove anything that distracts people from the sign up button and actually taking action. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Appreciate your time. Thanks again. Bye.